not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning here in the Northwestern Hemisphere. But good morning to you wherever you are. Welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. Now, to access the show, you can do so by calling 1-877-932-9766. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. You can also do this. You can watch the entire program by going to the YouTube channel and typing in the word Talktainment. Hit the space bar and type in the word radio. Scroll down to Talktainment number 2 live on YouTube. There you can watch the live broadcast of the compensatory concept. And while you are watching, periodically there will be something on the screen, depending upon what the subject is, to further enhance your listening and viewing pleasure of whatever we are talking about. And thank you for the pleasure of your time, because it is your time. You don't have to do this, but we don't take it for granted. We thank you for that. Anyway, while you are there, hit the subscribe and like button. That helps the whole situation. And finally, you can go to facebook.com/Talktainment, and you may hear the rebroadcast of the entire show. So those are the ways to get in contact with the show. The title today of today's show is going to be Your Questions and Your Gmails. Our Gmail account is, wow, it's there. So we have to try to make do of that and answer your questions that you have sent into Mr. Fuller. Okay, I think that is all that I have to do. So let me present to some and introduce to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., live from Washington, D.C. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Good morning.
Okay. Mr. Fuller is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. We will have him speak more about that generally at the 45-minute mark, the book, and all the information that we have on the book. Breaking news, Mr. Fuller, your opinion on this, and if it has anything to do with white supremacy. Just a few moments ago, breaking news from MSNBC that the 3 American, if you will, prisoners that were held captive by North Korea have just been released and allegedly are on a plane back to the Northwestern Hemisphere, United States. What is your opinion on that, please?
Well, anytime anybody's doing anything, I mean, it has to do with improving interaction between people. That's always a plus, regardless of who the people are, where they are, or what the issues are, if that is an improvement. Anytime people are trying to figure out a way, as Mr. Rodney King said back in the 1990s, he said, he raised a question that still should be answered: can we all get along? And we all stuck here for a while on this small planet that's hazardous problems, environmental problems, volcanoes erupting and whatnot. Certain species of whales are disappearing. The oceans are polluted. We have all kinds of problems that need cleaning up. Not to say any the least of one of the major problems is the interaction between people. So anything that contributes to people improving, they're trying to, quote unquote, get along according to compensatory logic, is a major plus. People are walking around on this planet, particularly under the system of racism, trying to figure out ways not to get along, forming gangs and doing all sorts of things that the system of racism nurtures, the system of white supremacy. I mean, you can't straighten out anything without straightening out that system, but anything within the system that you can do that just kind of somewhere starts something among somebody somewhere that does something sometimes that makes some kind of sense in a constructive flavor, oh, that's a huge breath of fresh air in a system that's designed to do nothing but just have people going at each other all the time, 24/7, gunfire everywhere. I mean, people just trying to sit around burning midnight oil, trying to figure out how they can start something that will create what we call, you might say in the hood, some mess. I mean, there's just too much of it, going on too long. We just thrive on it. I mean, turn on your television. Everything that has anything to do with destruction is glamorized. Anything about tearing up something or making somebody feel awful. And that's what we should be trying to get rid of. Everybody who's listening to this program, I mean, everybody everywhere on the planet, every minute of the day, should be thinking about making this small planet the type of peaceful and harmonious place that it ought to be. So if someone is releasing somebody from a prison and trying to shake hands about something and get along in a sincere way, get rid of all the hypocrisy, which we're overloaded with that, and then maybe we can start down the road of having produced the quality relationships that we should have among all people, everywhere, 24/7.
Yes. I think for me, the key word that you just said was in a sincere way, which leads me to think that there's suspect activity going on. Anyway, let's go to the Gmails. This comes from Larry. He says this, Mr. Fuller, isn't it interesting that when black people in Chicago began saying that many of the drive-by shootings that were being done by police death squads, suddenly those shootings dramatically decreased. Everything you see on television has subliminal messages detrimental to black people. Every negative thought you have about yourself as a black person and black people in general is reinforced by television programs. Mr. Fuller, how can we best address this fact?
You can best address it by pointing it out. That, that we shouldn't keep glorifying this nonsense, glorifying killing, glorifying putting somebody down, going all the way back, many, many years. It didn't just start, making a part of a staple of black culture, things like going back to the 1920s and the 30s, where black people, young black people standing on the corner, played what you call the dozens, talking about somebody's mother, trying to say the most derogatory thing that you can possibly say about somebody's mother, and everybody laughing about it, all right? And then the next thing you know, someone, you might say, gets the best of the dozens, and then the knife fights, the razor fights, the gun fights break out. And stop nurturing this type of thing. This is all the white supremacists design. They just want people to go at each other all the time. They make movies about it around the clock. Most of the movies are about murder and destruction. Most of them glorifying it. They don't advertise them like this is what it is, but that's exactly what it is. It's glorifying the making of death, the making of misery. I mean, in the most glossy forms. I mean, in the most elegant forms sometimes. I mean, going way back. Not only the movies, long before the movies. The stories of Sherlock Holmes. What? This is what you call literature that you teach in schools. And literature about what? About killing. Julius Caesar. All about killing. All about killing. Shakespeare's writings, most of it. Misery. People deliberately making misery for other people. I mean, backstabbing. Most of these stories going back to ancient Greece times and Roman times are all about intrigue that has to do with plotting to kill someone. Emperors plotting to kill other emperors, poison them, etc., etc., etc. And then you bring that to black people and dump it by the truckload on black people. And so we are raised up from birth, looking forward to Christmas so we can get BB guns and whatnot and run around the neighborhood imitating, making death. Making death. By the time we're 13 years old, we have a head full of it. And being combative. That's right down to glorifying the most popular sport traditionally in the Northwestern Hemisphere for many years among black people was what? You didn't train to be a scientist or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
The most popular sport was what? Boxing. For many years, black people were supposed to, every black person, all the boys on the corner and whatnot, practicing being prize fighters, all right? Knocking somebody out in the ring. And even today, I'm going to say it because it's in the textbook, boxing shouldn't be classified as a sport, period. What we call boxing. Two people getting in the ring, one trying to disable another by knocking the other person senseless, damaging the brain deliberately. Yet in football, they put on helmets to keep the brain from being damaged.
Yes.
I mean, everything in the system of white supremacy is hypocritical. Everything, no matter how glossy it looks on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rotten society. It's a rotten system, and it's designed to be that.
Okay. All righty. Let's go to the phone lines. Line number 1. You are now on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby. I have one quick question for Mr. Fuller. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I tell her, small things about white supremacy and racism and things like that, but I have your book, and I have Dr. Chris Wilson's book, The Access Paper, and I want to know, what is she too early, or what is a good age for me to maybe read that book to her? And can you explain more about how the second area of people activity education affects non-black people or non-white people? Thank you.
All righty. Thank you. Mr. Fuller?
I couldn't hear the question. It sounds like...
What? Okay. Sir, are you still there?
No, can you just capsulize it?
Well, he wants... Go ahead.
I'm still here.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, just make it short so he can, Mr. Fuller can understand it. Go ahead.
I just wonder, Mr. Fuller, what is a good age I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I have your book and Dr. Chris Wilson's book, and I wanted to know what is a good age, or do you think she's old enough for me to read those books to her about racism and white supremacy?
I still didn't get.
Okay, he wants to know. He has a 5-year-old daughter. Hang on, caller. He has a 5-year-old daughter. He wants to know: is it a good age, or what is a good age to begin to learn her or teach her about racism and white supremacy?
The best time to teach anybody anything is when they start asking questions about it. But prior to that, you tell everybody, regardless of age. People sometimes ask me, what do you tell young people? I say, you tell young people the same thing you tell old people. And even somebody who's 110 years old, you tell them the truth. And usually the best time is when the person asks a question about something. But prior to that, you just tell them the truth about just try to have a quality relationship with people. In other words, what is a quality relationship? When you interact with people, try to say and do the most constructive thing that you can think of. That's it, in all areas of activity.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay.
And if people are in a non-constructive mode, just tell them that you will make contact with them at some other time.
Okay.
That's in the textbook.
Okay. What was the second part of that question, sir, the last part of it?
Last part was I want to know if Mr. Fuller could expand on how the second area of people activity, education, affects non-white people.
Okay. Did you hear that, Mr. Fuller?
If I understand the question, it's education.
Yes, the second area.
Education is just learning. Try to learn everything that is of constructive value. And try to learn everything about telling the difference between what is constructive and what is non-constructive. Because there's no such thing as in between. And anything that happens any time of day or night, every minute of every day, you're either going to be doing something constructive or something non-constructive.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often just given an illustration like this, sitting down to a plate of food, which this is morning in a lot of places right now. People are sitting down to eat. First thing you do is look at what's on that plate and ask yourself, when you eat what is on this plate, is it going to have a non-constructive effect or a constructive effect on the body? It might be that maybe you shouldn't even eat because you're already overweight. You're not really hungry. You're just eating because the food is there.
Okay.
And that's non-constructive. You eat when you're hungry. Your body tells you when it's time. Not the clock.
Okay.
The body.
The body.
Yeah.
Before I do the 15-minute area commercial, I noticed that when you use the word constructive, to my recollection, I have never heard you say deconstructive. Is there a reason why you do not or refrain from using that word?
Well, I say destructive.
Okay.
All right, or non-constructive.
Well, yeah, that's the word you use,
Yes,
non-constructive.
the word I use, right. I mean, you know, and of course, non-constructive is destructive.
Okay. I just wanted to get that out. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, TalkToHimAtRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge world broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here are two that I will share with you. And the first one is All in the Family. You want to tune into that and find out what's that all about and your opinions on that. All in the Family. And the second one, of course, is my show, Talking Sports with Mr. Bobby, which will premiere this Tuesday. And our special guest will be Trent Clark, a line dancing guru. Somebody asked me, well, what does that have to do with sports? And I said, absolutely nothing, which makes the program unique. But just an area of interest because there are a lot of people who like to line dance. Anyway, tune in Tuesdays from 6 until 7 p.m. Eastern Time here on TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. You are listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. The subject today is your questions and your Gmails. Access the show by calling 1-877-932-9766. You can also do it by Gmail, the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. Here's the important way. How about that? Well, all of them are really important, but this one right here. You can go to the YouTube channel and type in the word Talktainment. Hit the space bar and type in the word radio. Scroll down to Talktainment number 2 live on YouTube and watch the live broadcast of this program. And periodically, the men in the back or the man in the back will have videos when Mr. Fuller is talking about different things particular to the subject matter that will enhance your viewing and listening and maybe your understanding of the point being made. So check that out. And while you're there checking it out, hit the subscribe and the like button. That'll be good. And finally, if you miss any of today's program, you go to facebook.com/Talktainment and you can hear the entire program. Okay, your questions and your Gmails. And how about they got that off the page? Here's one, since the phone lines aren't here. One of the Dog Squad members wrote up this, Mr. Fuller, said the science agenda to exterminate blacks. Bombshell Health Ranger lecture. This was a lecture. It said these genocidal tactics are carried out in the name of science and medicine via the following vector. Food supply, laced with infertility chemicals, confirmed by the New York Times, quoting as a U.S. president's science advisor. Number 1, water supply, heavy metals poisoning, as well as recently witnessed in Flint, Michigan. They have a problem there. Medical experimentation, the Tuskegee Guatemalan prisoner experiments funded by the U.S. government, and etc. Immunization campaigns, covert sterilization of young women in Africa. And this one right here, cancer disproportionately affects people of darker skin color due to vitamin D sufficiency. Abortion activities that target blacks in order to harvest baby organ tissues for the use in vaccines, medical which is medical cannibalism. Mr. Fuller, what does the compensatory logic say about stuff like this that is ongoing? We know about the Flint. I've heard stuff about, the babies, water supplies being affected. Everybody that I know knows about the Tuskegee experiment. I didn't know about the Guatemalan experiment, and I did hear that cannabis oil, which is a derivative of cancer-causing a plant rather, can cure 34 cancers, but the information of that wasn't released until 2014. It was studied in 1974, and then finally released under the Freedom of Information Act. What does compensatory logic have to say about stuff like this?
It comes under the 6th major white supremacist strategy or confusion.
Okay.
All right, and these are kind of outlined in the textbook for Victims of White Supremacy, pages 24 through 36. The 6 major strategies are racial classification confusion, racial population dislocation confusion, racial population tailoring confusion. That's number 3 out of the 6. And that's a part of the racial population tailoring confusion. In other words, it's all designed not to exterminate black people. If the white supremacists wanted to kill all of the black people on the planet, we wouldn't be here, because they could have done that a long time ago. Mm-hmm. So they just want to keep the population confused, and they want to keep the population also in balance so that it fits in to their long-range schemes, because they make 200- and 300-year plans at a time All right, they intend for this to go on forever, just the way everything is as far as the treatment of non-white peoples. And so they have these strategies all set up in place. So every now and then they will take a look at a certain area and they say, well, looks like the population is getting kind of stabilized there, so let's disrupt it. So we'll we'll dump these different diseases in here, or we will poison the water, or we will do something in there, give the people some guns and set one against the other, spread rumors among them, stir up trouble, and have them fighting and killing each other. And then we'll go back and check in 2 or 3 years and see if the population is reduced enough in that particular area, because we're going to do some mining in that area 10 years from now, and we don't want too many of these black people in the way, making trouble and whatnot, and giving us arguments about we shouldn't be there and all like that. So we just reduce the population in that area over the period of the next 10 years, so when we move in, nobody will be there. If we poison the water, they'll figure out that the water is poison, and they'll move on their own. They'll go, further upstream. So therefore, when we get there, everything will be all set up and ready for us. See, they're the best planners in the world, and this is all a part of it. The population control is a part of it, but they're not trying to exterminate everybody.
Okay.
Why? For a very logical reason. If they exterminated the black people, and you're a white supremacist, now you're a white supremacist now, and you're going to kill all of your product off that you're supreme over. See, you got to look at it like they raise us like they raise animals. That's why they call us animals and treat us like animals.
Wow.
We act like animals.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you're raising chickens for the slaughter. When you're raising cows, if you're a cowboy, you're herding cattle and whatnot. What are you herding those cattle for? You're going to take them to market, all right?
You're
going to kill all those cows, okay? But you're going to nurture some more. In fact, the ones that you have on hand, you're going to make sure that they're pretty healthy. They can make the trip, all right, when you put them on boxcars and whatnot. They used to just round them up and have to drive them over mountains and all like that.
Yes.
But now they put them on trucks and all like that, but they take them to what? To market. And so, black people are just animals that they just herd around and do what they want to with. But since we're in the form of what we call people, they have sexual intercourse with us, produce babies, among black people, and dump them over there among the black population, all right, and then mistreat them too. I mean, they got a thing really going. This thing called white supremacy is a huge, huge, huge business.
Business.
The biggest business that the world has ever seen.
It's a business.
It's a business. I mean, and black people take it personally, say, well, they just don't like me because, why is it they don't like me? I try to get along with people and all. It doesn't have anything to do with that. You're an animal. And, we herd animals. Yeah, they like their animals, but as long as the animals act like animals, all right? They pet their dogs and cats and whatnot. See what I mean? But the dog and cat should never think that it's not a dog or a cat. Once that dog or that cat start thinking that it's going to be treated like a person, I mean, in all things, no. The white supremacists let you know. No. You're black. All right? You're an animal. You're an animal. Get that through your thick skull. To me, you are an animal. I will groom you and pet you and show you off every now and then, put you on television. But I do when I have a pet show, I do that. All right? But I'll also whip you and put you in the corner and deny you food when you act out. When I come home in the evening, you have been over there tearing up my curtains and whatnot. Oh, no, I'm not letting you get away with that. You're an animal.
Yes, sir.
Act like one under me forever.
Wow. Should I take this call or we going to commercial? Telephone? Okay. Okay, caller, you are on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Hello, yes. My name is Thomas. I'm from Columbus. the question I have for Mr. Fuller was, how does white supremacists use black celebrities as tool for white supremacy?
Okay.
Here again, I always have trouble hearing.
He said, okay, okay, wait a minute. Caller, can you repeat that again? How does what now?
I said, how do the white supremacists use black celebrities as tools for white supremacy?
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
How do black people use
white
white
supremacists
people use black people as tools for white supremacy?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Oh, I just said so. You know, we that's what white supremacy is about. What is white supremacy for? It's for fun, for glory, and for material gain. Like all creatures, birds, alligators, fleas, flies, fish, they all want fun, glory, and material gain. All organisms want that. Okay? The white supremacists want that. That's just another system for getting those things. But it's a gangster-type system. It mistreats people in the process. There's nothing incorrect about fun or glory or material gain.
Mm-hmm.
But the white supremacists thought up a system called, hey, let's get all of our fun, all of our glory, and all of our material gain from mistreating people of color.
Okay.
All right? And they came up with a world government that would do that.
Okay. We're gonna
That's all it is. It's real simple. It's not complicated at all.
Okay.
And so the non-white people become tools. You know, they just use us for getting those things. That's all.
Okay.
Fun, glory, and material gain.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to leave it right there. Thank you, caller.
Yes.
We have to go to break here. Let me go on line number one. You are on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your question, please.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. I have two questions. Mr. Fuller, can you please explain to the listeners how we need to make our work our fun? And also, can you please explain why black people don't need to compare? We don't need to compare each other to one another, and how we need to stop showing off to one another.
Mr. Fuller?
Why black people should stop showing off to one another?
That was the last part of it. Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I'll take that one first, and then we'll back up on the other ones if I have time. Well, black people have been trained to do just that look forward to doing nothing but one thing. If you watch us, when we're working on a job or anything like that, and we're saying, I got to get off. I mean, you know, I got to have some time off. I got a lot of things to do other than be on this job. I need to come to the job because I need to, you know, to get a salary. I need to get paid. So once I get paid, I'm out of here. And then I got to go somewhere. Now, where is it that we want to go when we are away from what the white supremacists either directly or indirectly have us doing in order to maintain ourselves? We want to go and do what? Truth be told, we want to go and look up some more black people. For the most part, this is all over the world, black people that we're familiar with, for the purpose of doing what? Mostly showing off. That's why we're always saying, let's have another get-together. I mean, what are we going to do this weekend? Well, we're going to have a party, and you know, and this is in the Northwestern Hemisphere. What is that really all about? I'm going to show off. We're going to get together, and we're going to laugh, and we're going to show off, and we're just going to spend all our time showing off. I got something new. I want you to see it. So I'm going to show off my new shoes. I'm going to show off my new hat. I'm going to show off my new apartment. I'm going to show off my new house. I'm going to show off my new car. I'm going to show off, show off, show off, show off. I got to do some showing off. Showing off to whom? To other black people. Now, all the things that we are showing off when it comes to things are things that the white supremacists produce, okay? And we take it and giggle and show it off, all right? Okay, now the other thing that we show off is the ability to belittle each other. If there are 4 show-offisms there in the code book somewhere that we do. I mean, when we get together, and this what causes a lot of misery and gunfire and whatnot, sometimes the showing off and the belittling gets out of hand. And then we kill each other. We do harm to each other. And we show off our knowledge to each other. That's another one of the show-offs. I know more than you. How many times I've heard all down through the decades, one black person saying to another, "Oh man, you don't know nothing. You don't know nothing. You know, where you been? You know, I've been to Hong Kong. You know, I lived over there. I know what's going on. You ain't been nowhere but right around the block here." You know, so he starts bragging about what he knows. I mean, and so he does that to do what? To belittle the other person. Bragging about how much he knows. But there's no black person on the planet in the system of white supremacy has ever known enough. Known enough for what? For what they should know in order not to be victims of white supremacy. That's what we should be trying to do. But see, that belittling based on, you know, and then showing off the things that we get from the white supremacists, showing off the ability to make sexual impressions. That's another one of the 4. To round out the 4, making sexual impressions on each other. I mean, black males strutting around like peacocks. I mean, you know, tattoos, hairdos, all the rest of it. What? To try to attract the attention of black females.
For what?
Yes. Now that's the question. Hey, baby, don't you want to talk to me? Now, if the lady says, "Oh, okay, maybe I want to talk to you," and most likely they don't say it; they just keep on walking. I mean, but if they want to halfway get along with you without being called a name, I mean, they'll say, "Yes, well, yeah, maybe I want to talk to you. What do you have to say?" And usually after we make that kind of opening, "Hey, baby, don't you want to talk to me?" we don't have anything to say that's worth hearing.
Okay.
Truth be told. Hey, baby, don't you want to talk to me? And if the answer is yes, what are you going to talk about? What are we going to say after that? We usually don't have anything to say that makes any kind of sense, truth be told.
Okay. Wow.
And so it comes down to talk to you for what? In order to gain what? What am I going to gain that I'm not out here getting on my own already? What am I going to get out of you? Standing here on the corner talking about, "Hey, baby," to every female that walks by, "Don't you want to talk to me?" For what? Showing off. That's all it is.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, caller, for your calls. Appreciate you. Talktainment Radio, we go where you go, and you can download the talktainmentradio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and it is the 45-minute mark, and this is the point where we've designated a special space for Mr. Fuller to talk about the publication, his book. Mr. Fuller, go ahead.
You can get the book by simply going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the basic textbook and a word guide. They're basically the same book, but the basic book is what I recommend that people definitely get. The extension book, the second volume, is one that's added on, you might say. It should be in the same book, but the book would be too thick to carry around. So the basic book is the one called A Compensatory Counter-Racist Code. The other book is the Compensatory Counter-Racist Codified Word Guide. And it's something similar to a dictionary. It's not a dictionary, but it has a substantial number of words in it that you use or don't use, or when other people use these words, you ask questions about exactly what do these words mean when the person who is using the words use them. Because this causes a lot of confusion among people and causes a lot of problems. Communications. We communicate with words. And sometimes people will say things that other people, you know, you're saying it, you know what you're saying, but the people who are listening don't know what you're saying because you're interpreting the words in a different way. So the word guide kind of leads us into the habit or the orchestration or the codified form of getting in the habit, you might say, of asking questions specifically about what certain words mean when people use them. Like somebody will say Western civilization. That immediately should set you in a frame of mind to asking a question. What do you mean by Western civilization? First of all, Western, because what's west of one place might not be west of another place.
That's right. That's right.
So what are you talking about when you say Western? And what are you talking about? A specific type of people? I mean, what makes a person, if you're saying a person is Western, what makes that person Western? West is a direction, or is it not? So you get the person to explain. And then after you take care, maybe with 30 or 40 questions about what Western is, then you ask, now, that second word you use, civilization. What is a civilization? What are the characteristics of a civilization? Are you talking about a person or a rock or a mountain? I mean, you know, and what are the characteristics if you're talking about a person or an animal? I mean, when is an animal civilized or are animals civilized? I mean, what do you mean by civil? Okay? And so that's just to give you an idea of get in the habit of paying attention to words. Why? Because in the system of white supremacy, a lot of damage is done through the use of words. This is how they control people.
Yes.
White supremacists, mostly. Now, when things get out of hand, they'll use the gun and the knife and explosives and things like that. But generally speaking, on a day-to-day basis, the white supremacist power is in the way that they use words.
Okay. All righty. All right, let's go here to the Gmails. Mr. Fuller, you often say that the answer to any problems is to ask questions. But I wonder, in the people activity, you never speak about war. Why?
Oh, I don't speak about war because war is talking about, it includes up to, I mean, it's not, I mean, everything is war when you're having hostility towards someone. I mean, that's war. Any type of hostility where you're doing damage, doing harm to somebody is war. They don't call it that. They will call it civil conflict sometimes. That's the use of words sometimes, those trick words. That's war. Anytime somebody's harming anybody, you got a war going on, okay? Deliberately harming, doing harm to someone, okay? So I don't talk about war. That's the 9th area of activity, the last area listed in the book.
Yes, sir.
But it's a lot in the book about war. Now, why is it I don't talk about it? It's because the details of how black people should handle war in the form of white supremacy, that's war, and what to do about it against war, which means counter war.
Yes.
All right? There's so many details in there that are so delicate that I don't talk about it because people might get it confused.
Okay.
And when you start talking about something fighting, and something all the way up from just minor fighting, you might say, if there is such a thing, up into killing people, because that happens in war.
Yes, it does.
You want to be very, very specific and very, very careful about what you say. Anytime, unlike the white supremacists, non-white people should be very careful in how they talk about even killing people and what to do when it comes to killing people and what not to do. Killing is necessary, but you want to be very specific about how to go about doing that, under what circumstances, when to do it, when not to do it, and you don't want to play with it like the white supremacists do. They are very laid back about killing. They just don't care anything about somebody killing somebody. To them, that's nothing.
Yes.
I mean, they put it in the newspapers every day about somebody killing somebody and don't even spell the person's name correctly. Why? Because it's so trivial. I mean, killing is, hey, that's nothing. Killing people, I mean, hey, we just do that without even thinking about it. I mean, that's just like napkins and toothpicks.
Yes.
I mean, it's hard to, it's a subject that you just take for granted. People killing people. I mean, 50 people got killed last night. So what? I mean, have another drink. That's the white supremacist idea about killing.
Mm-hmm.
But one person killing another is serious business, and we should look at it that way.
Yes, sir.
The non-white people of this world should look at it that way. In fact, the way the world should be run right now is that when you hear about someone deliberately killing somebody else, nobody should believe it. That's the way black people should be talking now, the kind of world that we intend to produce. That when somebody says that somebody killed somebody 40 years ago, nobody will believe it. They'll say, oh, yeah, it actually happened, 40 years ago? No, nobody's killed anybody in the last 2,000 years. What are you talking about, fella? And you said that somebody killed somebody 40 years ago, somewhere over there in the middle of the ocean somewhere. I mean, a couple of sailors got to fighting, and one of them killed another. I don't believe you. Stop spreading those rumors. That's the way we should be talking in 2018.
Okay. All righty. Let's go to the phone lines. You're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Hello, am I on?
Yes.
Oh, hello, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. I don't know if I came in late. I don't know if you mentioned the sort of recent activities with Kanye West stating that slavery was a choice. I just wanted to hear Mr. Fuller's take on it.
Wait a minute. Kanye West said that slavery was a choice, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
VGQ. Right out of what's that? According to the code, victims guaranteed qualification. Mr. Kanye West, last I heard, is a non-white person, classified as non-white, correct?
Mm-hmm.
He has victims guaranteed qualification. As a victim of white supremacy, presumably, if he sees himself that way, the code says that if you're non-white, you are classified as a victim of white supremacy in some area of activity, which, since all areas are connected, that makes you a victim in all areas of activity. You have the qualification to do what? To say anything that you choose to say about race, racism, and or counter-racism. Now, why is this in the counter-racist code book? It's to keep black people from getting in conflict with each other about a discussion about their status, about racism, counter-racism, about our victimization. Black people shouldn't go at each other regardless of what we say about our victimization. We are all equal prisoners in the prison of white supremacy. And a bunch of prisoners walking around in the prison yard talking about his or her view about being in prison should not set off a fight. I mean, you can say anything in the prison yard. We're still victims at the end of the day. You're still under the system of white supremacy. So what difference does it make what a black person's opinion is to another black person talking about the prison.
So,
You can say anything you want to about the prison.
Somebody asks you if slavery.
You shouldn't get angry with the person or
what would be your
upset with the
answer?
person.
Wait a minute. Okay. Go ahead, caller. What'd you say now?
I'm saying that if somebody asked, hey, Mr. Fuller, if somebody said, do you think slavery is a choice, what would be your codified answer?
If someone says that the prison should be destroyed,
No, if someone said to you that slavery was a choice, what would you say?
I would say just what I got through saying. You said what I heard. What you said.
No, so if somebody
you know,
asks you, like, hey, Mr. Fuller.
Let's look at it like this. If Mr. West was talking to me, and he said that slavery is a choice, Fuller, and I would say, is that your opinion, Mr. West? And he said, yeah, that's my opinion. I would say, well, you're entitled to your opinion. That's what I would say.
But what
Why?
if...
Because that doesn't change anything.
Okay, but what if they ask you, Mr. Fuller, is slavery a choice? Then what would you say?
I would say not in my opinion,
Okay.
or it could be a choice. I mean, you know, if a person wants to look at it like that.
Okay.
Because if I am a soldier and I'm captured in a war, I mean, I have a choice. I mean, you know, they say, well, hey, we're surrounded. All right, I'm a soldier on the battlefront. And so somebody says, well, we're surrounded, and they say if we don't surrender, we'll die. All right? And so my choice is, well, do we surrender or do we die? Okay? And so somebody says, well, I think that, hey, if we surrender, we might have a chance to escape later on. Okay, so let's surrender. So some person might say, oh, no, I'm going to fight to the death. Well, that's that person's choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So within that context, yeah, slaves do have a choice. You know, hey, you either take this whipping forever, all right, or I will torture you, or you get on this boat. Okay? I got you now. I got you. You got a choice. You can die. I will torture you to death, or you will go along with me on this boat. And then we'll work it out from there on. Now, I can kill you right now, or you can get on the boat and be a slave.
So then
slavery or death.
Slavery or death. Okay. Thank you for your caller. We'll pick this up on the next hour. TalkTimeAtRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the pleasure of your time.
Thanks for listening to the compensatory concept. This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller.
Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTimeAtRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTimeAtRadio.com.
This is the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you, only confuse you, only confuse you.
TalkTimeAtRadio.com, we go where you go, the world's greatest radio. You're in touch with the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. To get in contact with the show, 1-877-932-9766. You can also Gmail me at the number 7, Mr. Bobby, at gmail.com. Do this also. Go to the YouTube channel, type in the word Talktainment, hit the space bar and type in the word radio. Scroll down to Talktainment number 2 live on YouTube, where you can watch and hear the program live on YouTube, yes. And also to hear both hours in its entirety, you can go to facebook.com/Talktainment and you can hear it all. All righty. Now, the second hour of the compensatory concept is donated or designated as the donate hour, which you have the opportunity to help produce the second hour of the compensatory concept. Now, we don't have it on the screen yet, but we will have it on the screen. But what you need to do, you can donate any amount of money that you want. And I'm going to be careful in saying this. All contributions are tax deductible. Someone pointed out to me that I said something wrong last week about that, so I want to make the correction. As a matter of fact, it's on the screen now. All contributions to the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. are tax deductible. Now on the screen you can see, you just get on the home page and you can hit, you can see where it has Listen Live. And then underneath Listen Live is the telephone number that you call. And then very brightly is the yellow donate button. And you can donate any amount that you would like for the second hour of the compensatory concept. All right, it's right there. I'm looking at it right now for those. Believe me, there are those that say that they could not see that. But it's clearly right there. The second hour of the compensatory concept. Just hit the donate button. We want to thank Eric Williams, Jane Lance, Helen Nance, Anthony McKean from England, Robert Wade, Alexandria Brown Pitts, Tanya Potts, Don Mitchner, Eric Williams, Lashana King, and B.W. Gifts, my brother down in Houston. Thank you. These are some of our consistent donators, and we really appreciate that. But that's what you do to get in contact with the show, and also to get in contact via your donations, which we really appreciate for the second hour. Okay, the topic today is your questions and your Gmails. Mr. Fuller has been answering. And before we got off the air, the second hour, rather the first hour, a caller had called in about the comments of Mr. Kanye West, and Mr. Fuller said it was VGQ. And what he said was that slavery was a choice. I've seen that read. I didn't hear him say that, but I've heard that from many sources that this is what he said. Now, with that being said, Mr. Fuller, according to compensatory logic, should someone have asked him, Mr. Kanye West, what do you mean by slavery being a choice?
Yes, but I wouldn't ask Mr. Kanye West that.
He said it.
That's why I say we need a code.
But he said it, and you said that to ask a question by the person.
Yes, you can, but I wouldn't do it for the simple reason he's made a statement, and that's clear enough to me that it is a choice, and that's his opinion. And if anybody asks me, now here's where the white supremacists always get black people to fall for this trick. I want to emphasize this.
Okay.
I'm thinking about it during the break. This is real serious. As victims of racism, we should have learned by now the white supremacist trick of sticking a mic in front of a black person's face and saying, say something, all right? And the black person will say something like maybe, racism doesn't exist. And then all the other black people throughout the world, go ballistic and start saying, did that black person say that racism doesn't exist? And I'm putting up with racism every day? Oh, and then they start cursing and and just going off and criticizing the person. The code says VGQ. That's why I invented that term. Victims Guaranteed Qualification. A victim of racism can say anything. I don't care what it is. You're qualified to say it. Anything about your victimization, or even if you see your victimization as not being victimized. As a prisoner of war, you can say anything you want to about your prison situation. All prisoners are equal, and all black people are prisoners of the war between those who believe in white supremacy and those who don't. We are born in captivity. So, if a black person walks around in the prison yard saying, I'm not in prison, all right, the rest of y'all can think you're all in prison, but I'm not in prison. Well, he or she is entitled to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But the condition is still the same. Now, here's where the white supremacists trick us. They will stick a mic in front of that person's face and say, what's that you said? Said, oh, I'm not in prison. Or, black people are not being mistreated, never have been mistreated. Black people have never been slaves. Black people are not slaves now. All right? Some black person somewhere on the planet might say that. Okay? And then here's where the white supremacists trick us. They immediately say, did you hear what he just said? This black person said slavery is a good thing. Or racism doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear that? And then they'll put the mic in front of another black person's mouth.
Okay.
That's where we make our mistake.
Okay.
I mean, because we don't know what to say when that happens. But the code says, I know what to say. I would say, yeah, I heard him say that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir, I heard him say that. Slavery doesn't exist. Slavery is a good thing. I mean, if it does exist, black people should be slaves. I heard that black person say that. But you know what? And when that white person asked me, well, what do I have to say about it? I say, he said what he said.
Okay.
She said what she said. And then, here's where I go on the offense. I say, now, I just heard what he said, sir. Or I just heard what he said, ma'am, in case it's a white woman. Then I will say, but what I am interested in, sir or ma'am, is what you have to say. Because what you have to say is a whole lot more important than what any black person that ever breathed ever says about anything.
Wow. That's deep. Let's go to the phone lines. Line number one. Okay. Line number one, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Bob and Mr. Fuller.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a question about VGQ. When we say victims guaranteed qualification, if Mr. Kanye West, if he don't see himself as a victim of racism, is it actually VGQ that he's given, or is it, in other words, I guess what I'm trying to say, should we take what he say at face value since he don't consider himself a prisoner of the system?
Mr. Fuller?
I'm saying black people have to get out of that you're a member of my gang mentality. Mr. Kanye West says what he wants to say, and you should say that he should say what he wants to say. You should be the defender of anything that he says. But let everybody know that's him talking. But what I want to know is not what Mr. Kanye West says about his condition. He can say anything he wants to about his condition. He has earned that. He has earned that.
Mm-hmm.
All right? What I want to know is when a white person asks Mr. West, and it's just white people, it's a lot of white people making remarks about what Mr. West says, I want to know what those white people say about whether slavery was a choice. See what I mean? You immediately turn to the white person who is saying, did you hear what he said? Say, yeah, I heard what he said, but sir, you're white. I want to know what you got to say about slavery.
And why do you want to know that?
Because it's more important about what a white person says about slavery than it is about what any black person ever says about slavery.
What makes it more important?
because the white person has the power.
Okay.
The black person is just talking to another. Black people talk all the time. We talk about everything. Why should anybody paying attention to us and we're a bunch of prisoners of war? See what I mean? We pay too much. We get excited and bent out of shape about something that another black person says about anything in the system of white supremacy. And the white supremacist knows from experience that in the system of white supremacy, what any black person ever says about anything doesn't mean anything in the system of white supremacy.
Okay.
And we have to understand that. Anything that Neely Fuller says, they don't pay any attention to me, the white supremacists, except when they can get some other black person to go after Neely Fuller about something that he said. Then it means something to the white supremacists. But the white supremacists say, those black people can get down there in the prison yard and argue all day long. That's what I want them to do. Go at each other about who is the biggest Negro and the littlest Negro in the prison. That's what we are good at. We are good at going at each other about any little thing that comes up.
Yes, sir.
And the white supremacists just sit back and say, doesn't make any difference whether they agree with each other or not. I'm the boss.
Yeah, I'm running this show.
Yeah, I'm running the whole show anyway, so I don't care what them black people do down there in the prison yard.
I got it.
Right.
Okay, Gmail from the Dog Squad. Said, Mr. Fuller, I recently heard some people say 2 black men were arrested at a Starbucks for no apparent reason other than Starbucks policy, which is not to provide restroom access to non-patrons. This is a very teachable moment which provides the correct compensatory response to suspected race soldiers. They did not fight, fuss, or flee. As a result, they're still alive. Everyone else should also have a compensatory response to Starbucks economic withdrawal. I'm sure if you need a cup of coffee, there are other options. Mr. Fuller, you comment?
Well, they chose to do something that seems to have worked for their benefit.
Well, yeah, they're still alive.
Black people should always keep in mind, what is it that I want out of this? This is why I'm saying when you're pulled over, you should ask yourself a question. Now, after all this settles down, and everything is cleared up a year from now, how is this incident going to look to me? Or am I going to be here to witness how it all played out? All right? That's the first thing you want to know. Okay? Are you going to be breathing this time next year? So, I say, don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. All right? And see how that works. Does that work against you, or does that work for you most of the time? Now, there are sometimes it won't work at all, because sometimes the person will just kill you anyway. I'm talking about like a person acting as a police officer who's really not a police officer. He's a race soldier. That's what the code calls him, all right? He's an imposter. He's acting like a police officer, but he's really not one. He's a white supremacist pretending to be a police officer, and he might intend to kill you regardless of what you do. You didn't fuss, you didn't fight, you didn't flee, but he just walked up and yelled, gun, because that's all he's got to do.
Yes.
Gun. And jump back,
And unload on you.
And unload on you.
Yeah.
All right? And then walk up and say, oh, it looks like he has something in his hand. But
yeah.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, there was a cell phone.
That's unfortunate, and I'll write a report on it and all like that. But, I mean, the way he moved his hand, I was sure he had a gun in his hand. I was absolutely certain.
Yeah, with the standard text, I feared for my life.
Right, I feared for my life. I mean, I had no intent. I was fixing to give him a ticket. That's all I was going to do.
But he moved.
he jumped out, and I thought he had that gun, and I didn't know what was going on. And my goodness, I mean, I've been on the force a long time. This is the first time I've ever had to unload on somebody like that. But, and that's all he's got to do.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let me get this in here because we have calls coming in here. Talk to him at radio.com. is a 24/7 no charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now here is one that I'm going to share with you, and it is called All in the Family. Now this is what you do. Go to the talktainmentradio.com homepage, click on programs, and there you will find All in the Family as well as other shows that are on Talktainment Radio. That's all you have to do. Talktainment Radio, radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby, the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and our topic today is your questions and your Gmails. And speaking about that, we want to go to there, 1-877-932-9766. Let's go to the Gmail. What is your, let's go to the phone line. What is your question for Mr. Fuller? Go ahead.
How you doing, Mr. Bobby?
Good morning.
Mr. Fuller, this is Brother Muko from Baltimore.
Hey, Brother Muko.
Where we hold the, how you feeling? We hold the compensatory constructive action meeting here. We'll be holding it this Saturday at 12 noon at St. Louis Drive, right across the street from Lake Clifton. And my question for Mr. Fuller, I know last week you were trying to figure out the 3 things that you don't ask for. Well, you weren't trying to figure it out because you wrote it. But the 3 things, could you elaborate on those 3 things that you should never ask for, which is an apology, love, or respect? And for my care unit in Baltimore, can you elaborate what the compensatory meaning of respect is?
Oh, wait a minute. The compensatory meaning of what?
What respect
Oh, respect means. Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Yes. All respect is self-respect. So we need definitions for words. Black people kill each other. Man, you showed me some respect. You disrespected me. Pop, 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 pop. All right, the 9mm comes out immediately. Okay, on account of this thing we have about we got to have this respect. I got to have this other black person respect me. Now, the white supremacists disrespect you in all 9 areas of activity, 24/7.
Yes.
Every day, every minute that you are breathing, if you're black and on this planet. All right, what you call respect. I mean, they're putting it all in your face that, hey, I have total disregard for you. You are nothing except whatever I say you are. And you will put up with it because you have put up with it. But a black person brushes past you, and because they were in a hurry, they weren't noticing, they were talking on their cell phone and whatnot, then you say, hey, can't you say excuse me? And then out with the gun, and you say that that black person disrespected you. That's your reason. Okay, let's get this thing about respect straight. So difference between respect and courtesy. Now let's handle courtesy right away. Courtesy, if a person is discourteous to you, that's on them. So you don't pay any attention to that at all. Okay? I don't care what kind of discourteous it is. All right? So discourteous it is. You be courteous at all times. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Whatnot. Always. Don't let anybody be more courteous than you. That's the code.
Okay.
At any time, under any circumstance, white or non-white. Always be courteous to everybody as best you possibly can be.
Okay.
Okay, now respect. Respect is something you give to yourself. So what's the definition of respect? The definition of respect is refusing to lie to yourself. All right? Don't tell yourself a lie. You might be forced at gunpoint to lie to somebody else. And in the system of white supremacy, you are forced to be hypocritical and to lie all the time if you're a person of color. All right? But you don't lie to yourself. You don't tell yourself to believe something that you know is not true. So nobody can give you respect. That's why you should never, ever, under any circumstance, ask anybody for respect. It doesn't make sense. You don't even know what you're doing. You're letting people know when you ask for respect that you don't know what you're doing. You know, I mean, it doesn't make sense. There's nothing that makes sense about that. And then another thing you don't ask for, because respect is something you give to yourself. Now, what about that second thing? Love. Love is something that a person will give to you if they want to. You don't ever ask anybody to love you. You never ask for love, period. Tell me that you love me. Tell me that you love me. Tell me that you love me. Like I have said on this program, back in the 1940s, there was an old song. I told you that I love you, now get out.
That just makes me laugh.
Well, it should, because if you stop and think about the logic of it, a person will tell you that they love you when they get ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you got to ask for it, it doesn't mean nothing.
Now get out.
Now, move to the third thing. Apologies. It's the same thing with love. Now, let's go back to the first one. Respect is something that you give to yourself. That's why you never ask for that.
Okay.
You never ask for love because love is supposed to be given willingly. In fact, if somebody really loves you, you don't have to ask for it. I mean, you'll know it.
Yeah.
I mean, a person that really cares, whatever you want to call love. I mean, I say that love and justice is the same thing. If a person always treats you correctly, treats you the way you want to be treated, and never even mentions the word love. A lot of people got grandmothers who have never told their offspring, their grandchildren, that they loved them. Never. Never. But you know what? That same fellow will say, you know what? Nobody cared as much about me as my grandmother. Man, my grandmother, she didn't say nothing about nothing. She just always took care of me. I mean, when I needed something, I mean, when I was down and out and all like that, I mean, my grandmother, she did for me. But as far as my grandmother sitting down and telling me how much she loved me, that wasn't even necessary.
Yeah.
A lot of people understand that. Because a lot of grandmothers don't say much. But they do a lot.
They do a lot.
And that's what counts.
Yes, sir.
Now, an apology is the same way. You don't ask nobody for an apology. All right? If you got to ask for it, it ain't worth nothing. So black people should get out of this habit. Well, we want you white supremacists to apologize for slavery. And so the white supremacists will say, is that what you want? They'll look at each other in amazement. All right? I mean, if it comes right down to the wire, yeah, that's what y'all want. That's what what about apologizing for racism? Okay, y'all want that too? Hey, buddy, bring in a truckload of apologies in here.
Wow.
Distribute them to all these black people.
Mm-hmm.
Give them each one a gold-plated apology card, a phony gold, that is.
Yeah.
Give each one of them. Say, I apologize for all of the things that I'm doing to you, and will continue to do. I want to apologize in advance. All right? So you don't even have to ask me tomorrow, because I'm apologizing in advance for the next 50 years. So did everybody get their apology now? Hold up your apology.
Yeah.
All you black people, by the millions, we're handing out apologies today. We want to make sure that nobody leaves here without their apology. That's the white supremacists. That's their logic. Okay. And they are very logical people.
Very logical.
So when black people say apologize for slavery and all like that, we sound absolutely silly.
Yeah.
I'm not asking them for nothing like that. I'm asking them for what? Compensation.
All right. Thank you, Brother Muko from Baltimore, for calling. Let's go to the phone lines. Go ahead, caller. You are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Hello. I called for Mr. Fuller. You hear a lot about the injustices that blacks suffer today. Do you believe that blacks should be astonished, or should blacks realize that we are still considered chattel without the benefit of being considered human? And will your code address the platform of us being seen as human beings?
Mr. Fuller?
Somehow I'm not receiving the question.
Okay.
I don't understand the question.
Repeat it to me, caller, and I'll repeat it to you.
I'm not hearing it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm having a problem with hearing the question.
Okay. The question was, go ahead, my sister.
Okay. I was asking that you hear a lot about the injustices that blacks suffer today. Do you believe that blacks should be astonished, or should blacks realize that we are still considered chattel without the benefit of being considered human? And will your code address the platform of us being seen as human beings?
Do I believe that the white supremacists regard black people as human beings? Is that the question?
No. Basically, we are considered chattel, and do we realize that us being considered chattel, okay, without their benefit, the suspected white supremacists and white supremacists of being considered human, how will your code address us being seen as human beings in their eyes?
Okay, Mr. Fuller, we are basically chattel, but not human beings. What is your response to that? That's how the white supremacists look at us.
I said it earlier. She probably didn't hear it earlier in this program. That was the last hour, though. But the the white supremacists say, in their movies and whatnot, and they say it when President Barack Obama was in the White House. The things that they said about his spouse, the First Lady, Michelle Obama. They said she was an animal. Okay? And in Godfather 1, they said, we'll sell drugs to the black people up there in Harlem, whatnot, because they're nothing but animals anyway. All right? And I said earlier in this program, in the first hour of this program, you treat them like animals. And sometimes you have special animals that you treat, as like they're people. And you see a lot of white people take their dogs and whatnot, and they parade them around. They have what they call dog shows, and they compare one dog with another for grooming and finesse and for elegance and for all those fine things that you would lay out for what you might call a royal person, okay? But the dog's still a dog. Now, once you get this in your mind as a non-white person on this planet, now you know exactly what the white supremacists think when they see a black person, all right? That's an animal.
They don't think of you as human. Is that what you're saying?
Well, but actually under the system of white supremacy, nobody's human.
Okay.
There's no such thing as a human being in the system of white supremacy. Why? Human beings are humane, which means what? In order to qualify for a human being, we are beings, but we are not humane beings. All right?
According
human
to who?
beings are humane, and in order to qualify for humane, you have to practice justice. And you cannot have justice in a system of white supremacy. That's impossible. Wow. All right? They don't go together. So human beings are yet to be produced. None of us are humane.
Okay.
None of us qualify for that title.
All right.
Because that's impossible to have human beings and white supremacy on the same planet at the same time.
Okay.
According to what? Compensatory counter-racist logic.
Got to leave it right there. Compensatory concept with Mr. Fuller. If you will allow me, I'm going to bypass reading some of the names so that we can go through. You know who they are, who contribute regularly. But if you want to, any amount, talktainmentradio.com homepage, hit the donate button, and they are tax deductible. One of my dog squad people mentioned that I wasn't clear on that, but they are tax deductible. Okay, going to the Gmails. Mr. Fuller, this is from Jane. She says this, Mr. Fuller, you have seen so much in your life, and I value your work and your opinion. My question is, judging by the dysfunctional state of the world today, including mass incarceration, gender and sexual confusion, violence, poverty, GMO foods, autism, extreme weather, and godlessness, in your opinion, Mr. Fuller, do you believe that we are in our last days? And thank you for your time, Mr. Fuller.
The answer is yes. That people at all times are in their last days. I mean, depending on what you mean by last days. But it comes down to another question. What do you do with your last days? Because all days are last days. I mean, all days are first days. It's the first of every day that you're here, and there's the last of that day. So that's how, under compensatory logic, you look at it. The main thing is you say, I'm here. So now that I'm here, and I have been given this time and given this energy, because it's all a gift. You don't worry about whether it's the last days or the first days or the in-between days. You just say, I'm here. H-E-R-E. I'm here where I am right now. So, there's just one other question. What do I do while I'm here? That's it. That's the whole package. And what you do is look around and see what needs to be done. And obviously what needs to be done all over the world, according, I think most people will agree on this, what needs to be done, if you're a person of correct mind, is solve problems. Why? Because you're looking at problems. Problems every day. Most people are looking at problems every day. Most people got a long list of problems that need solving. So you say, I am here. So therefore, since I'm here, what am I looking at while I'm here? I'm looking at problems to be solved. And the next question is, what can I do right now to start solving these problems?
Okay.
So that's it. There's nothing. It shouldn't be no confusion about that. See, codification is about eliminating confusion right quick.
All right.
And getting right to the point of what you do. And so what you do is just look at the problems that are right there in front of you and say, okay, I see about 50 or 60 problems right there in front of me right now. So I'm going to start solving maybe one half of one of these problems before sundown today. And just start right there and keep on doing it. That's all.
Okay.
Don't bother about nothing else except just solving one problem after another.
Okay.
Just as they come at you or as you stumble up on them. One problem after another.
Okay.
Solve problems.
Solve problems. Okay. 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. Mr. Fuller, this comes from Mr. Clark. He says this, good day, Mr. Fuller. Is it okay to date a non-black, for example, a Japanese, Brazilian, etc.? Thank you.
Now, what you mean by date? If you mean
relationship is what the title of the inbox is.
Female relations. You're talking about sexual intercourse and our sexual play. That's really what a date really is.
Okay.
Otherwise, a date is just something on a calendar, or two people sitting and drinking coffee. That's just two people sitting and drinking coffee. I mean, that word date, that can be very controversial, misleading, hypocritical, whatever you want to call it. But I prefer not to even use the word date. I just say a person is either going to have sexual intercourse or engage in sexual play, kissing, fondling, something like that, or they are not.
Okay.
Okay? That's all. Let's cut right to the chase. Is that what you're doing, or is that what you're not doing? Now, is it okay to do that with a person of a shade of color? Now, see, Japanese is what you call a culture. I mean, it's a number of things that you do. Language, what they call culture sometimes has to do with the food that you eat, or the type of clothes that you wear, or your frame of mind about different types of things, I mean, and your opinion of these things, and all like that. But now, if you're talking about color, you're talking about black, brown, red, yellow, tan, beige. Okay, so sometimes, or oftentimes people who are considered to be quote unquote Japanese, when you talk about color, they are usually, many times, are called people who are yellow or shades of yellow or tan or brown, but under the umbrella of people of color. So if you're talking about people of color, all people of color, according to the code, can have sexual intercourse. If that is the question, if that's the core question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and fit under the code approval.
Okay.
What code? The counter-racist code. Because you're a person of color. Doesn't make any difference what shade you are of color. I mean, a lot of black people look like they're white people, but they're classified as black.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you know, you look at black people all the time. I mean, you know, you say, well, you know, if you just really look at the person, we got them, you know, black people who are light skinned, dark brown, dark brown, black, what they call yellow, or sometimes called red bone.
Yeah.
But you know, but they're you know, they say that they're black people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Malcolm X didn't look like Marcus Garvey.
No, he did not.
All right, and his spouse, I mean, was darker than he was, but that was okay.
In fact,
he
was called red.
Classified as black.
Yeah.
They function as black.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same way with any shade. If you're talking about color.
Yes.
Just go by how the person is classified according to color, not according to whether or not they're, you know, so-called Chinese or Japanese or Indonesian or English.
Okay.
English is not a color. All right? You will say, I'll give an illustration. A person will say, well, sir, there's an Englishman out there that'd like to speak to you. Okay? So a person walks in, and that person is what you might call, quote, unquote, jet black. And the person leans over and says, I thought you told me there was an Englishman waiting to speak to me. Say, yeah, he's from England. He was born in London. I mean, you know, his folks came from Ghana, but he lives in London. I mean, he was born in London.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
You know, he's, you know, yeah, well, you know, but I thought of an Englishman as being white. Well, that's what you thought. You didn't ask me nothing about what color he was.
Good point.
Yeah.
And that is true. Tell you what, let's do this. Let's talk about your book for a couple of minutes.
Oh, you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen after you go to producejustice.com is the method for ordering the basic textbook, and it's segmented in 9 areas of activity.
Mm-hmm.
It's a guide for the individual person, the individual non-white person. Anybody classifies themselves as non-white and who also sees himself or herself as a victim of white supremacy. If you don't perceive yourself to being a victim of white supremacy, the book does not apply to you. Black, brown, red, yellow, any person of color, all right, is classified in the textbook as being victims of white supremacy. But the individual decides that. A person will say, yeah, I'm a person of color, but I'm not subject to white supremacy. Racism, you know, I never experienced it. I don't even know what it is. I don't know anything about it. I mean, it doesn't apply to me. So the book doesn't apply to you. But you go to producejustice.com, and if it applies to you, then it tells you what it is from the counter-racist perspective that I have written, Neely Fuller Jr., and what to do about it as an individual person on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
All 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. But you only pick out the things that make sense to you. Anything that doesn't make sense to the individual reader, just skip right over that and go to something that makes sense.
Okay. But producejustice.com is where you can go get
Producejustice.com.
All righty. All righty. You're listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. And you can get in contact with the show by calling 1-877-932-9766. And with that, let's go to the phone lines. Okay, caller, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Good morning. This is Joe from Harlem. Can you hear me?
Yes. From Harlem?
Yes.
Okay. Wait a minute. Let me make sure Mr. Fuller can hear you clearly. Can you hear him right now, Mr. Fuller?
I can hear him.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
My question is, would it be logical to assume that the person who started the idea or concept of white supremacy was a highly influential person?
Wait a minute. I didn't even hear that. Is it possible that what?
That the person
wait a minute. You know what? Wait a minute, brother. Are you on a speaker because it's interfering?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You need to cut that off so that we can both hear you. Okay.
I was trying to read my question. That's why. I'm sorry. Is it possible that the person who started the idea of racism, white supremacy, would it be possible that person possibly would have been an influential person, the person who started?
I didn't understand that.
Okay, would it be possible that what calling and wait a minute?
That the person who started it was influential, was like a very influential person.
An influential person who started white supremacy?
Yeah, could it be possible?
Okay. Would it be possible? Okay, Mr. Fuller?
Could be. I mean, people have asked me, who started the system of white supremacy? My answer is, I don't know. I do know that somebody started it because I see the evidence of it. Everything has a starting point. Just like, hello?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
And I always say, I don't know, and then I follow that up by, it doesn't matter. What matters is, it's here. So what I look at it and ask myself one question, should it be here or should it not? I came to the conclusion a long time ago that since white supremacy is designed to mistreat people, it shouldn't exist. So it doesn't make any difference when it started. If it started yesterday, it started 15 minutes ago. Mistreatment, whenever it starts, shouldn't exist. So you don't mistreat people for any reason. So sometimes the white supremacists will have black people saying, well, we can't really end white supremacy until you black people figure out who started it, what date, and, and what was the location, and what was the person that got it started. Then we can start talking about doing something about getting rid of it. That is a flawed concept right from the beginning.
Yes, sir.
And I'm saying, my perspective, the perspective that logic has led me to believe that it's not necessary to know anything about who started it and when. It is necessary to say, hey, let's figure out a way to get rid of it like in 5 minutes, okay? And do it if you can.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it.
Mistreatment of any kind. White supremacy is just a form of mistreatment. That's all it is.
Oh.
It's all kinds of mistreatment, but white supremacy is the most powerful.
Okay.
So get rid of it without even having to think about who started it and when, and whether or not it was on a Wednesday or Thursday.
All righty. From the Gmails, Mr. Fuller, a question from Mr. Walker from Connecticut. I'm not going to give the city, but anyway, he says this, or asks us, as far as I see it, we have three choices to choose from to end the scourge of racism and white supremacy. Number one, we can pray to a higher power known as God to assist us in dealing with this scourge, which requires faith and total reliance on Him to intervene on our behalf as brought out in the Holy Scriptures. Number two, continue to protest, boycott, and rely on the corrupt political systems which has proven unreliable for non-white people, not only here in the Western Hemisphere, but all over the world. Or number three, Mr. Fuller, take the example of the Spartans from ancient Greece, led by King Leonidas, who led 300 of his personal bodyguards against the greatest empire at that time, the Persian Empire, Leonidas knew that he and his brave 300 were going to fight and die in battle, but they knew their deaths would be for the greater good and would motivate all Greece to go to war with Persia. Yes, many lives were lost, but we know from history that Greece eventually defeated the Persian Empire and became the fifth world empire on this earth. Mr. Fuller, what say you to this?
Well, you're talking about history and all like that, and you've given a lot of examples of what to do about racism. So the code position is that anything that anybody comes up with that they think will work, then go to work with it. I have written a book called The Textbook for Victims of Racism, addressed to the individual person, and I say the way to get rid of racism is for each individual to try to do the things wherever he or she is as an individual person that will be the most effective action, thought, speech, and action that will be effective against racism. That's the prescription that I have outlined in the code book.
Which is practicing justice.
Yes, I mean, that's the goal.
Okay.
The goal is to produce a product called justice.
Okay, all right.
All right. But you have to get rid of racism. I mean, and you're producing justice when you're doing anything that gets rid of any kind of mistreatment of people.
Yes, sir.
So that would include racism. But any formula that a person wants to go back in history and try to see if they can find something that they can use, I mean, nothing is stopping you except the white supremacists from doing that. I mean, that's what codification is, wide open. So a person can do anything that they think would be effective. But I'm saying I take the individual approach. I tailor everything that I do to the individual, not, groups and armies and organizations, because I say, well, that's just not something that I do.
Right.
But anybody who wants to copy how the Greeks did whatever they did, or the Persians, or some tribe, ancient tribe somewhere in Africa or wherever, I mean, you can study what they did that worked and what they did that didn't work, and use that if you think is effective on a day-to-day basis for somebody to do it.
Okay.
And then do it.
All right.
I mean, the whole thing is in what you do, what you choose to do. It's your choice.
Your choice.
BGQ.
BGQ.
Right.
Okay. From the Gmails, KLM writes, Mr. Fuller, how can a black person be a racist?
A black person can't in the system of white supremacy.
Okay.
That's it. You can't be a racist and be a victim of racism at the same time.
Why?
Because you don't have the power. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a victim.
There you go, right there.
Yes, right. I mean, a black person doesn't belong to a race. We have been told that. Told by whom? By the white supremacists. We were told we were members of a race. Race is racism.
Yes.
We're not members of any race.
Yes.
If you're a member of a race, the only purpose for being a member of a race is to practice racism. That's it. We have never been members of it. We have been tribal members and all like that, fraternity members, sorority members. We've been members of a particular religion and whatnot. I mean, but the racists came along and say, we are the white race. And so that makes you the black race. And you say, wait a minute. When did I become a race? I said you were, fella. Wake up and smell the coffee. You're a race because I say that you are. I'm categorizing people according to what I say is race. And I'm the master race, and you're the servant race. How about that? And then they, they sold that bill of goods. But, we should just say that, no, I'm not a race member. Never have been. When did I join? I haven't joined no race. I was told that I was a member of a race.
Okay.
By whom? The white supremacists.
White supremacists. Okay, finally here, I think this is going to be the last question. Brother Singh Ho wrote, good morning, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, you always said as part of the code that non-white people should not name call each other, including white people, in order to minimize conflict. Is saying that someone who is white, a suspected racist white supremacist, a form of name calling?
No, because you're saying, I'm not putting that label on you. I'm just telling you how I relate to you. I'm saying I suspect that you could be one. See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
I'm just describing an action. All right? I'm not calling the person a name. I'm saying you could be that name, but you may not be that name. That's why I say always say suspected racists.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Suspected racists. If you're a non-white person, you never call a white person a racist. Not ever. You say, I suspect you could be one. Why? Because you're able to be one. And in a system of white supremacy, where you don't have a master list of who is a white supremacist and who is not, then you can suspect anybody who's able to be one as being one. And this is not incorrect. This is logical. This is just. This is the closest thing you can do to produce injustice. You have to do that until someone, somewhere, with the knowledge and expertise, makes up a master list of everybody who is a white supremacist and everybody who's not, so that everything will be clear. They'll say, well, nobody in the family of white Jacksons in 2018, as of January the 1st, 2018, is a white supremacist. And their name is on the list. All right, that's official. They never do anything that's racist, ever, by speech or action. It's completely gone. But I'm not aware of any such list in existence.
Yes, neither am I.
So therefore, I have to suspect that any white person who is able, the key term here is able, to be a racist should be suspected of being one.
Yeah, now you're not calling
you're not calling them that.
Right, right.
But in a system of white supremacists, somebody has to be a white supremacist.
Yes.
Since they're the most powerful people on the planet. There's nobody more powerful than the white supremacists on the planet Earth.
Well, for this week, we're going to have to leave it there, but very enlightening. Thank you, callers. Thank you for the pleasure of your time. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you for answering the question, and thank you, Talktainment Radio. Talktainmentradio.com, the world's greatest radio and radio.